This week's Torah portion is so good. It's Vayetze, and it's Genesis 28:10 through 32:3. The Haftarah is Hosea 12:13 through 14:10. And the New Covenant portion is John 1:43 through 51. So I'm going to start right in Genesis 28, verse 10. Then Jacob departed from Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and spent the night there. Remember that Jacob is running away from his brother who wants to kill him because he deceived his father and took his birthright. So he's on his way to Haran. So, because the sun had set, and he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head and lay down in that place, he had a dream. And behold, a ladder was set on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and at the land on which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. So this is the same promise he gave to Abraham. It's the same promise he gave to Isaac. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And in you and in your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Remember, we talked about this exact blessing, which was on Isaac last week. Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid and he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Remember that phrase, the gate of heaven. If you will think into the New Testament in the book of John, and Yeshua said about himself, I am the gate, I am the door. So let's continue on. In Genesis chapter 29, then Jacob went on his journey and he came to the land of the sons of the east. He looked and he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it. For from that well they watered the flocks. Now the stone on the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, they would then roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, my brothers, where are you from? And they said, we are from Haran. And he said, do you know Lavan, the son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. And he said, is it well with him? And they said, it is well. And here is Rachel, his daughter, coming with the sheep. What an exciting story. It's so much like the love story that we read last week when the servant went looking for a wife for Isaac. And, he's praying to God. And then all of a sudden, there she is. Just like this. Jacob gets there. He asks about this family. And all of a sudden, there is Rachel. And same phrase that we heard last week in verse 9 of chapter 29, while he was still speaking with them. Remember how that was twice in last week's parasha. Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Lavan, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Lavan, his mother's brother, Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of Lavan, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father, who was Lavan. In verse 13, so when Lavan heard the news of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Now, if we go on to verse 15, Lavan said to Jacob, because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? Now, Lavan had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. Now, Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. Well, we know what happened. After that, we know that Lavan, he deceived him. So he works those 7 years and, hey, it's time for me to marry your daughter. And there's this great big marriage. And he goes home with his wife. He wakes up in the morning and it's not Rachel. It's Leah. And then he immediately goes to Lavan. He says, what have you done? You have tricked me. I worked for Rachel, not for Leah. And he says, you know what? You work another 7 years. I'll give you also Rachel. So at the end of that week of Leah's wedding, at the end of that week, he received also Rachel, but then he worked another 7 years for the two of them. In verse 31, so now Jacob is married to these two sisters. One is loved and one is not loved. And in verse 31, it says, now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved. Remember what we've learned about God? His name is Adonai Ro'eh, the God who sees. So he saw that she was unloved, so he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son and named him Reuven. And we'll go on and just see it. She had Reuven, and then she had Shimon, Levi, and Yehudah. And each one of these sons was named for a special reason, such as Reuven, the Lord sees, Shimon, that the Lord hears, and on with the other two. In chapter 30, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she became jealous of her sister, and she said to Yaakov, Jacob, give me children or else I die. And then in verse 3, she did exactly what Sarah had done. She said to Jacob, here is my maid, Bilhah. You go into her, that she may bear on my knees, and that through her I too may have children. That's just what Sarah did when she gave Hagar to Abraham. And so the maid, Bilhah, she had two sons, Dan and Naphtali. Well, when Leah saw that Rachel had given her sons and Leah had stopped bearing children, she took her maid, Zilpah, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. And Zilpah had Gad and Asher. Moving on in our story. So, God listened to Leah, and Leah had a fifth son, Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Yaakov, and she named him Zebulun, and afterward she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. Verse 22, then God remembered Rachel. How many times have we heard that? God remembered Abraham, God remembered Noah, and now God remembered Rachel, and God gave heed to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. She named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me another son. May he add on to me. Now, in chapter 30, verse 25, now it came about when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said to Lavan, send me away that I may go to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me depart. For you yourself know my service, which I have rendered to you. But Lavan said to him, if now it pleases you, stay with me. I have divined that the Lord has blessed me on your account. He continued, name your wages and I will give it. But he said to him, you yourself know how I have served you and how your cattle have fared with me, for you had little before I came, and it has increased to a multitude, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also? So he said, what shall I give you? And Yaakov said, you shall not give me anything. If you will do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted sheep, and every black among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. They shall be my wages. And we know that God blessed Jacob, and all of those sheep and goats ended up being speckled and spotted, exactly what he needed for his own flock to increase. When we get to Genesis 31, now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father, he has made all this wealth. Jacob saw the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly toward him as formerly. Then the Lord said to Yaakov, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. And so Yaakov sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field, and he said to them, I see your father's attitude, that it is not friendly toward me as formerly, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. However, God did not allow him to hurt me. I want to move on over into verse 17. Jacob arose and put his children and his wives upon camels, and he drove away all his livestock and all his property which he had gathered. He acquired livestock which he had gathered in Padan Aram to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. When Lavan had gone to shear his flock, then Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's. And Yaakov deceived of Lavan the Aramean by not telling him that he was fleeing. So he fled with all that he had, and he arose and crossed the Euphrates River and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. When it was told Lavan on the 3rd day that Yaakov had fled, then he took his kinsman with him, and he pursued him a distance of 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. God came to Lavan the Aramean in a dream in the night, and he said to him, be careful that you do not speak to Yaakov, either good or bad. And then, Lavan says to Yaakov, what have you done? Basically, why did you run away like that? And then he says, what have you done by deceiving me and carrying away my daughters like captives of the sword? And then he goes down, and in verse 30 he says, now you have indeed gone away because you long greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? Well, Jacob doesn't know anything about it, because who was it that stole the gods? It was Rachel. In verse 32, Jacob says to Lavan, the one with whom you find your gods shall not live. Well, we know that Lavan did not find the gods that day because Rachel said that she was in the way of women and she could not stand up, and the gods, the idols, were under her. Therefore, she hid them, and her father didn't find them. But we also know that Rachel came to an early death with the birth of her next son, Benjamin. And the Bible does not say this, but I have often wondered if that was a result of what Jacob said that day. He said, the one with whom you find your gods shall not live. That's just an opinion on my part. Going forward into Genesis 31, looking at verse 46. Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. So they took stones and they made a heap. And so Jacob is now, he's telling everybody with Lavan's people, let's gather these stones into a heap. And so they took stones, they made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Now Lavan called it Yegar Saduta, but Yaakov called it Galid. Lavan said, this heap is a witness between you and me this day, and therefore it was named Galid and Mitzpah. For he said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from each other. And in verse 52, they said, this heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness that I will not pass by this heap to you to harm, and you will not pass by this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And then the last part of this parasha, when we get to chapter 32, now as Yaakov went on his way, the angels of God met him. Yaakov said when he saw them, this is God's camp. And so he named the place Mahanaim, which really means two camps. But I want to finish with the new covenant, because remember at the beginning, we started with Jacob's ladder and those angels ascending and descending on this ladder, which it said was a gate to heaven. Now, when we get to this week's new covenant portion, we see the connection between this new covenant portion and between the Torah portion. And I want to look at John chapter 1, starting in verse 43. The next day, Yeshua purposed to go into Galilee, and he found Philip. And Yeshua said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, of the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him, of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Yeshua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael said to him, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Yeshua saw Nathanael coming to him, and he said, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Yeshua answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Yeshua answered and said to him, "Because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see the heavens open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." And so, like I told you, when we saw it in the Torah portion, that Jacob's ladder, that was referred to as Sha'ar HaShamayim, the gate to heaven. We know that Yeshua is the gate, and here Yeshua himself says, you will see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man. So the truth is that we see that Yeshua truly was Jacob's ladder. He is our way from earth to reach the heart of God. I bless you today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Shalom.